Town Band Banter with Doc and Dave. Every week, two longtime friends and colleagues in the world of music, David Price and Donald Doc Smith, get together to discuss the triumphs as well as the twists and turns of lifelong learning for the dedicated members of thousands of civilian community music ensembles of every shape and size. Your comments and suggestions are always welcomed through email as info@townbandbanter.com, Facebook, Town Band Banter, and Instagram, #TownBandBanter. And now for our hosts, Doc and Dave.
All right, episode number 8.
This couldn't possibly be episode number 8.
Number 8 of Town Band Banter.
Episode 8? You can't mean episode 8, can you?
Of course I mean episode 8 because
oh my goodness gracious.
Too many other podcasts that I've heard in the past are there. What episode is this? You know, like look before they start. So we're hoping to do that. And if you're watching on video, which are going to be up on YouTube very shortly here, you're also seeing a third person in the screen. And we're really happy to welcome today Dr. David Neves, who's done so much here in the state of Rhode Island and nationally as well in music. So I don't know how we only have 30 minutes, Dave. How are we going to do your thumbnail sketch of a career in 30 minutes? That's going to be hard. We got to be brief and brilliant. But welcome, Dave. It's wonderful to have you.
Yeah, happy nice to see you.
Happy to be here, gentlemen. Happy to be here. Happy to share.
So why don't we dive right into that? I don't know much about you as a kid. You know, like I met you when you asked me to sub for you at a Board of Regents meeting.
My gosh,
really?
You know,
like when you couldn't make it that night and it was the last one and they were the arts, they were proficiencies, right? And graduation requirements, and the arts weren't even mentioned. And you
gosh.
Don, we have to get someone there. Go. And I'm thinking, well, it might have been nice to prepare with a little bit more than go.
Well, that was pretty far into my career already. That must have been like the early 2000s or something like that.
Yeah. Late 90s.
Late 90s. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And it really was a springboard for me into the state, Dave. I was an advocate at that point at RIMEA, so that's why you called me.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're a spring chicken, Don. I was already an old man by then. My gosh. My gosh.
Yeah, you've retired many more times than
I've retired more times than I can remember.
No, but that really was a springboard for me because I got to meet people from the art and the dance and visual arts and and it was wonderful. You know, like it was terrific. And I got up and just summarized what everyone else said. And it got this big applause, and then they all came over to me and said, "Who is this new guy?" So thank you very much for thinking of me. Calling them.
Now, did you introduce yourself as Dave Neves just to kind of give him a boost? You didn't, did you?
Well, I certainly didn't introduce myself as David Price.
Yeah, that's for sure.
All right,
that would not have been a bad thing.
Why don't you give us the thumbnail sketch if you can?
Thumbnail sketch of how I got into music or what have you. I mean, the real fast sketch that I like to share with everybody is when I was 8 years old in our house. My mom basically said to myself and my two brothers, "Do you want to play an instrument?" And what 8-year-old says no? And I said, "Sure." And what do you want to play? And I said, the saxophone. Not because I knew anything other than I thought it looked cool. And she said, "Okay, we're going to go to Ray Mullen Music on Broad Street in Pawtucket, Rhode Island."
I remember that. Yeah. I remember that place,
And she said, "We'll get you a saxophone and we'll get you taking lessons, but we're going to do it. But if we do this, you will practice every day. You still want to do it?" And I said, "Sure." And so we went and rented a saxophone, and I started lessons with an old Portuguese man named Raul Coelho. Cost $2 a half-hour lesson in the basement.
Isn't it great?
And she was a genius because her words, she said, "You will practice, not you have to, or I want you to." She said, "You will practice every day." And I practiced every day. There were tears coming down. I wanted to go outside and play, but she said, "You will practice every day for a year," and I did. And I know this is about community bands, and 4 months after started lessons, I was playing in the Lusitania Club band, Portuguese band with all the old timers. And that was my first community band experience. And because I was doing that and practicing every day, I got really good, really fast. Playing the Portuguese band, the transcriptions and the scratches on the pages.
Yeah.
Then that summer, that was in September, I was 8 years old. And that following August, June, July, August, I was playing in the Portuguese feasts with the band, and I had a uniform, looked like a policeman's uniform. We were marching and doing this old stuff, and it was like 8 or 9 of us little guys with all the old timers playing, and I got paid. I remember getting a paycheck at the end of the summer for like $10.
Whoa,
So I got
man.
money, and I got to play, and it was the coolest thing. I remember playing with some other really great players, Dave Martins and Dennis Alves, and we played in our class together, and we were the coolest dudes. And then at the end of the year, Mom came and said, "You still want to play the saxophone?" And I said, "Oh yeah, of course, I'm cool, I'm good. I enjoyed it, I loved it." And she said, "Okay, and you don't have to practice anymore every day." And I'm like, "Okay." And then she said, "But if you don't, the instrument's going back to the store, the lessons are done." My mom, God rest her soul, she was a genius, I'm telling you. And that launched it. I was playing in the band. I went through the school program. I never had to play in the classes in school because that stuff was so easy. But I played in the concerts, went through the junior high band and the high school band. And then I was going to be the best jazz saxophone player in the world when I was in high school.
Oh,
yeah.
That was my goal. But I started teaching in my senior year in high school. We had something called independent study. So if you had all your classes and gear and you were, quote, smart enough and your grades were good enough, you could take the second half of your senior year and do a project instead of taking classes. And so I went to the junior high school, or the middle school, I guess they were finally calling it middle schools. And I worked with the middle school band director, George Prue, who's still around doing some playing. And I worked at the North Cumberland Middle School teaching the saxophones there, working with the jazz band. And I kind of enjoyed that, but still I wanted to be a jazz saxophone player. I was going to play with the Buddy Rich Big Band. So I went to Berkeley, but I took music ed because that was a smart thing to do. And then everybody at Berkeley was going to be a jazz saxophone player. And they were all a hell of a lot better than me. And they were practicing like 8 hours a day in the practice rooms. And they were monster players. I was pretty darn good. I made All-State all the time and all that stuff. But I loved teaching. So I fell in love with teaching and I was playing. And then I got hired right out of Berkeley. I graduated in Berkeley in 3 years because I went straight through the summers.
Right.
So I saved money. So I graduated from Berkeley and I got hired in Scituate as the choral director.
Oh my
God. Who would have thunk?
Oh, wow.
Full-time choral director. And I always wondered about that. I stunk in my first year. I think about now what I know about teaching now. They probably should have fired me, but they kept me on. I was energetic and I learned everything I could about teaching chorus and I did a pretty good job. Then I gradually took over the band program and built a pretty darn good program over the years there. Stayed there.
Solfege in Lusitania as a kid?
Yeah, we did Portuguese solfege. Yeah.
We were wondering about that.
Yeah,
because, one of the discussions that we had, there was that fact that in the Italian and the Portuguese tradition, they taught solfege as part of just a basic general musical knowledge because they didn't have music in their schools over there.
Yeah, actually, still in Europe, the music programs, the way we have here in the States, is very different in Europe. It's not, it's very much outside of the schools, or at least the last time I looked at it closely, very much community school programs. Lots of general music and what have you in the schools there. But over here, when my experience in the Portuguese band was basically Sunday morning rehearsals, doing all the transcriptions and all of that routine. But you build up incredible chops, but with that Portuguese vibrato, and all of that stuff, which had to be beat out of me by my teachers at Berkeley to get into the modern style of playing.
I didn't know Guy Lombardo was Portuguese, but certainly the vibrato part was.
But I'll tell you, the chops you learned in reading the music, you learn how to read really, really well, and you developed a lot of fast techniques. So the traditional band music was so easy for those of us who went through that Portuguese band tradition. And I was doing general business all through high school, playing Friday and Saturday nights with a little general business band with my brothers primarily. Yeah.
General business was. So what kind of a band was that?
Oh, that was like you played, where all the DJs soak that up now.
Yeah,
you played weddings and anniversaries and anybody who had any type of a shindig, political things or what have you, you played. You had to hire live musicians. New Year's Eve, you'd walk home with a check for $250, $300 to play New Year's Eve. And so you weren't working at McDonald's or anything like that. You were working at these, if you were a half decent player in high school, you could be making money doing that. Today, that's gone. thanks to all the DJs.
That's how I fed my family in the early days there.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of weddings, an awful lot of weddings. I think I had a private room at the Venus de Milo, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we did that all the way probably up until I would say the late 80s. I was still doing that on the
yeah,
weekends. And
right.
gradually now the live bands are the really tight, big, large commercial groups like the Brass Attacks and those that can recreate that. Yeah, so I did that and started doing the Situate gigs, and I got heavily involved in RIMEA, the Music Ed Association.
At what point did you switch the band?
Gradually, I think my 4th year, I took over the high school bands. Situate was a junior, senior high school, so we did grade 6, 7 through 12, and I kept the middle school choir because I really loved the choir thing. So we kind of kept it, and then gradually I took over we switched with my colleague in crime, and we gradually flipped so that I was doing all instrumental and he was doing all choral over the years. So
Kevin there before you, or?
Yeah, Kevin was there before me, and he was doing all bands when I got there, and then we gradually flip-flopped. So we switched around that way over the times.
I wondered how that worked. So then going to RIMEA, because that goes right to the national level. And it's amazing that happens once you get going with all of that.
Yeah, well, I was doing my grad work at RIC and classical saxophone, which was a nice balance compared to my Berkeley training. And Phil McClintock was the president of RIMEA at the time. And he said to me in some lesson, "Hey, we need a treasurer. You want to be treasurer?" Of course, which was a job nobody wants. But I liked figures. I liked doing all of that stuff. And so I said, sure. And I was a treasurer back then, running back and forth from the old RIMEA music camp at URI with like $30,000 in the trunk of my car to go make a night deposit at the bank from the camp stuff. And if you want to learn about an association, you follow the money. So you learn everything from treasurer. And then I became, editor. I've done it all. The RIMER, I edited the RIMER. I ran the festivals, became president. Then somebody nominated me for Eastern Division president. I became that when I when I became.
I know when that happened.
Yeah. I became state teacher of the year in 2002. And lots of things happened. Let's
go back to the conference. How I got to know you best was you were Eastern president, and we were hosting the 2009 conference, Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
And of course, I ended up getting talked into being in charge of exhibits. The exhibit, which pays for the conference. So you're talking about there's more parallels in our career than I thought. I did graduate from college in 3 years and all of that sort of stuff. But back to that. In 2008, when I was calling, I had all these people lined up I sold tables for them to come and exhibit. And I would call the company to double check it because 2008, if anyone remembers that financially, was a complete crash of the economy. And I'd call back and they say, well, he doesn't work here anymore. And there's no notation of us coming to your.
Right. Yeah.
And we were down to the point that I think between you and I and Alan, we're thinking, are we going to be bankrupt? Are we going to have to file for bankruptcy? Because there was a lot of money committed for that conference.
And signed contracts.
And we had to come up with that. And I think it was more Alan who fought. I said, I need to go find people to be at tables. So I said, can I have $200 for a flight to Chicago to go to the Midwest? And there are 750 exhibitors. I'll go if I could get like 50 tables, we'll be okay. And Alan said, no. So I went and did it. I got reimbursed, and we did get over 50 tables from just that one day. So we got to know each other. You get to know people the best when things are the ugliest. And
that's right.
It was pretty nasty then, and it was. All my contacts with you have been very, very positive. So,
hey, that's how you get things done. You have to be positive. You have to look on the bright side of life. You always have to assume people are doing their best possible job at all times. Right. Same thing with students. They're doing their best at that moment in time. That's how you get through this. That's how you stay doing this for a long time in a positive way. So
you're no longer president of RIMEA, Rhode Island Music Educators. You retire from Situate, and then that's it. You've been fishing ever since, right? Is that how?
Well, when I became the state teacher of the year, it came with a scholarship to the doctoral program at Johnson & Wales leadership, because I was never going to pursue a doctorate. But I said, what the hey, I got 2 years for free. So I went to it, got my doctorate. And then I got a call from Needham Public Schools saying, we need a new director of fine and performing arts And I said, oh, what the hey, I'll go check it out. And they interviewed me and they wanted me, and it was kind of a no-brainer. At the time, I had 29 years in Situate, so I was able to get a pension, unlike the current pension system in Rhode Island. But back then, you could retire at 28 years
Right.
and collect your pension, plus a nice salary in Needham, and I could work full-time in a school system that really supported the arts. And I had 30 teachers under me, a big program. So I went up there for 12 years and ran a great, wonderful program, did a lot of, I think, very positive things. Stayed there for 12 years. And then finally in 2017, it was time to say, okay, enough of the full-time work. So now I just do part-time stuff. I only do exactly what I love to do on my own terms. Funny part is, I know we're talking about community bands. I'm prepping scores. So the one thing I did do in Needham when I got up there, they had a beautiful town center and a beautiful town gazebo. And I remember saying, where's the town band? They did not have a town band. So as my community service, that first summer of 2005, I started the Needham Community Band.
Nice.
And then when I retired in 2017, I figured that'd be my last summer. And they said, are you going to come back next summer, right? And I'm like, all right, I'll do one more summer. And now it's 2024, and I still go back every summer, and they drag me back up there. Oh, you gotta come back, you gotta come back.
Yep.
So we start up tonight. It's real. I mean, we do 7 rehearsals, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and 1 concert, and we're done.
Oh, that's nice. Very nice.
And I've got 70 people enrolled.
Wow.
We run it through the Needham Community Ed program. They pay a small fee to be in it. And when I was working full time, I did it for free as my community service. And now they pay me a small stipend to go up there and do it. And every year I say, why did I say I would do this? I have to drive up there and I have to prep all this music. And then now I'm excited. I started looking through the scores again. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And of course, I've been conducting so long. It's like, oh, yeah, it's not going to be a problem. And
quick question for you, Dave.
Yeah.
You were saying that you had people and they come and they pay a small stipend to be almost like a class that they're taking for a summer project. Do you have any say as to what the instrumentation is, or who plays what, where, and how it works?
I'll tell you.
How do you do that?
I mean, they just sign up.
Yeah.
They sign up. We've always had good instrumentation. And if I'm short a few things, I just, make a few phone calls to my friends and colleagues and fill it out. I've got 66 people signed up. I've got full instrumentation. Yeah.
Wow, nice.
6 trombones, 4 French horns, 13 trumpets, 9 flutes, 3 oboes, 1 bassoon. I've got everything. The only thing I don't have right now is a baritone sax. And I'll probably have to recruit a few percussionists.
Yeah.
In fact, the biggest thing was the last few years, I had no percussionists enrolled, and I would always have to, drag some percussion friends from the Rhode Island area.
And we are a scary bunch. We don't just sign up.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I would say to them, guys, what's going on? I mean, Needham's in the ring circle around the Boston metropolitan area. There's tons of people up there. There's tons of percussionists running around. They've got a strong music program with lots of kids who are good players. I'm like, come on, you guys can't dig up 5 percussionists to play? And we used to have a few, and they drift off. And they're like, well, maybe if we did some more music with a lot more exciting percussion. I'm like, well, how can I program more exciting percussion
when you
if I don't have any percussionists to come and play? So I'd be calling up some of my friends. Hey, guys, what are you doing? We have a concert. Come to a couple of rehearsals. And we drag them up there. But it's a great group.
That's part of the repertoire balancing act, because if you're short tubas and you get one, you feature them. In that next concert, tuba is a cool thing to do. I've done that all the time. So if you end up with those 5 percussionists.
And that's the other thing with this group. It's just a fun, no pressure group. I try to balance it out with, there's certain pieces we play every single year so the folks who haven't played since they were in high school, who are now 65 years old, 70 years old, they can just come and enjoy. And I always tell them, no pressure. We just accept each other as they are. When we distribute the music, what part do I play? What part do you want to play? What are you comfortable playing? And they work it out themselves. The players who have lots of confidence, they drift to those first chairs and those first spots. The players who are uncertain, they drift to the second and thirds. Every once in a while, I'll have to talk to a section and say, okay, come on, somebody come forward, grab this first spot.
Somebody do it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they work it out. They kind of know who they are, and they're very collaborative. And we have some really, hot high school players who will come and show up and play.
Yeah.
And they're just a lovely bunch. I probably have about, out of those 65, there's probably about 8 or 9 or 10 who've been playing since 2005, who keep coming back. Yeah, so it's really fun group, and I love seeing them.
Yeah.
They get all excited every year. And
I'm sorry. I really enjoy playing in Doc's band in particular in Jamestown. One of the wonderful things is you're never quite sure what the instrumentation is going to be from week to week. So I've been trying to play French horn and struggling mightily. But I set up the other day, and all of a sudden, sitting next to me is an accordion player. I said, "Oh, for crying out loud, I got an accordion who plays horn parts." And I said, "What, are you transposing this stuff?" I was really quite impressed. And he said, "Oh, yeah, I'll show you how there's a transposing button on the accordion."
Oh, wow,
Set up,
that's
you know what I
nice.
mean?
Yeah, I haven't had that problem yet. We did have an electric bass player who was coming for a number of years. I think that's the closest I've come to a non-traditional band instrument showing
Right.
up. Nobody,
Yeah.
I haven't had any accordions showing up. No violins popping in, or bagpipes. No bagpipes or anything
No
like
bagpipes?
No
Well,
bagpipes
what
showing
the
up.
heck?
I know.
Not sure what I
I-
do with bagpipe, but accordion, we've used it quite a lot, and it was kind of cool. This last rehearsal, I had written things up for him to play, to be featured again. Like if you have a different sound, let's try this. So we play the beer barrel polka. I added it. Our next concert is a one that features every section, and so you have to feature the accordion section, of course.
Well,
So,
you're a better man than I am, Don, because I would see my concept is, listen, if you want to play and you're playing something like that, okay, here's some great websites to go to, figure it out, and let me know how you do.
Right.
I learned how to write for it. But we're doing the beer barrel polka, and I said, well, when we get through the intro and get to the first chorus, everyone's out except for drums, bass, and tuba, and the accordion, right? And then what? And then we get there, and half the band plays anyway. I said, no. Everyone's out there, and played right before that.
Yeah, that's right.
All of a sudden, it's the accordion playing the polka, and everyone went, oh.
There. Oh, look at that.
That's really different, so I like using those different sounds if I can. It's a smaller band, so it's a big juggling act. And it works year round, Dave. Maybe that's why it's small, but Jamestown's a small island, and there are a lot of people in the band who are not from Jamestown, but the majority of the work, it was all percent Jamestown when it started. So it's been traditionally a small band. We're probably somewhere like 25 or 30 now. But you're missing that one oboe player. That really changes his repertoire quite a lot.
Well, I think one of the reasons I get so many is because it's a short amount of time. We do it. And when I was working full time in Needham, I would often get that request, can we do more concerts? And I truly was so busy, I would say, no, I just don't have the time. We did for a while, would get together in the middle of the school year, do a couple of quick rehearsals, and do like a January concert in the auditorium, just to do something. And I would do a few of those once in a while, especially when we were celebrating a special anniversary in town. But other than that, I was just too straight out with so many other things on my plate to take on more. And now, every once in a while, I say, we prep so much, we do that one concert, and I'll say, maybe we should do like one more concert. And then I just slap myself in the face and say, no, I got to get away. And because then September comes and I start up my youth wind ensemble, and I start up my other part-time things. I'm just doing just enough. And I don't want to add any more to my plate. And I think that makes it extra special. People get excited about signing up and getting together. And a lot of them also do some other bands. They also are committed to other groups. So they get excited. And I try to keep it nice and balanced. I push them hard enough so that they grow musically. They really enjoy that. We run an intense rehearsal. We go an hour and a half straight without a break, because I always give them that choice. Like we go a little longer and take a 10-minute break, or we can just go straight through. And they say, let's just go straight through. Okay. Yeah. And that's what we do. So,
Dave, I don't know where we at with time, Doc, but we have certain questions that we ask every guest.
Ask away.
And so I'll throw out, what do you say, Doc? I'll throw out the first question.
Go ahead.
Well, in particular, our first question is it's a little more pinpoint to it. But what was your most memorable experience with a community music ensemble? In particular, something that is just jumps right out at you in doing the a community ensemble.
My most memorable was with the Needham Community Band. We had a gentleman And of course, the name's going to elude me right now, but he was 98 years old.
Oh, great.
Euphonium player, and he kept coming back. His last year, he was very challenged physically, but he kept coming. His wife would come with him to rehearsal, carry his instrument, help him. He would come in with the walker, and he would sit there, and he would do his best and play. And it was such a testament to his love for playing, his dedication to playing. And he played the concert, and I believe he passed away like 2 or 3 days after the concert.
Oh.
And I still remember that moment when I got the note. And I got very emotional when I thought about it. And his wife, and I went to the wake and the funeral, and he had a picture of him with his euphonium.
Yep.
And then the following week, I was in my office at the school, and I got the phone call from the office, and Dave, there's a woman here, and she has this big box and all these items, and can you come down to the office? And it was his daughter, and he was donating everything he had collected over the years to the school.
Amazing.
Cool.
And it was his instrument and boxes and boxes of music, and she was just sharing how music was his life, and he was just so grateful that he could keep playing. And we kept having him, and she was like letting him, and I kept letting him play. You got to be kidding me. And it just really struck me the power of music to sustain our humanity. And I think about that I connected that to my mom deciding way back when we were growing up. I mean, my parents, neither one of whom were musicians. They weren't, quote, highly educated in that formal way. My mom had the equivalent of an 8th grade education, but for some reason in their mind, they wanted their kids involved in music, and they wanted us to develop enough skills to really get good enough to truly understand what it was like. And so that still sticks with me when I think about the kids in front of me, and when I fight to try to get kids everywhere to have these experiences, to at least get to see what it's like to become skillful in this art form that we love.
That's a great one. That's very good.
Answered both the first 2 questions, and that's right there.
Right. You hit it.
His mother told him that he had to practice every day when he was 8 years old. I did the math. There was 32,850 practices.
That's right. But who's counting?
Question number 3 is what was a big challenge with an ensemble, and how did you overcome it with a community ensemble?
A big challenge with a community ensemble. I guess the biggest challenge, and it was a long time challenge, is making that shift from the academic, when you're trying, when you really want to have that real high standard, that what I tell my student teachers, the non-negotiables. And so some of my best mentors, you can't let it go. You got to fix it now. And with a community group where you have to just let it go, let them play, let them, like tonight, just let them play, let them enjoy it, and finding that balance. And sometimes I go too far and let too many things go, and then I look and say, oh my gosh, there's 2 rehearsals left and we still sound like, and so that's an ongoing challenge. I'm not sure I've ever conquered it totally, finding that balance. You want to, and you've got players in front of you who are like, man, we're not there yet. And other players like, oh my God. So finding, and that's I'm not sure if I've found the answer yet. It's finding that balance.
It's a gentle balance. It constantly is a gentle balance. That's my opinion.
I find that weather and times of year and stuff like that, because they're adults, their adult lives are different than their kid lives, where the parents are, putting them in the car and saying, we're going to this rehearsal. The adult lives are very different, and then they're dealing with, taking care of their parents or taking care of their kids. And, so there are a lot of commitments that are very different than the school setting. All right. And then what's the future of community bands? We'll help wrap it up.
Well, I think, I'm not sure this is directly related to the future, but I think the future of community bands could be a lot better than I think it is. I think one of the problems is we're not doing a good enough job in the schools of connecting and making sure students who are playing in the schools understand that there could be this huge outlet for them A lot of our kids, unfortunately, are still putting the instruments away after they're done with their school programs.
Right.
And they don't realize that there is this non-pressure, just fun playing opportunity out there for them. So I wish that more of our music educators, band educators were connecting our students more regularly with, like, like here in Rhode Island, like the Portuguese bands, getting them out there playing just for fun and seeing what's out there. A lot of our kids don't play in college because they think it means they're going to have to rehearse, 5, 6, 7 times a week, 2 hours each time, and give up every weekend for football games and all this other stuff. And it's like, no, it's not like that. You're good enough now just to play. It's funny, I was on a cruise a couple of weeks ago and I ran into two band directors there, and they were talking about their college experience, and we were talking about kids not playing, and they were saying, like, no, it's like, you're good enough now, just come and play a couple of times a week. But kids are saying, I won't have time to play in college now. And it's like, yes, you will. So I think making that connection, we can make a big, stronger connection. We can expand. Like you say, you got a small group in Jamestown. You should have 50 people playing in Jamestown. I mean, how many times do you rehearse? Once a week? This like
all year long. So we end up with the snowbirds during the summer, and
yeah. But the group is getting larger.
That's great.
It just seems every week I look and say, oh my gosh, there's more people.
That's
great.
We're
kind of outstripping our rehearsal hall in a way.
That's a nice problem.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Dave, for doing this.
Oh, Dave.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, it was
loving
a terrific episode, and look forward to that. Maybe we'll have a little contact information if particularly if people are interested. They have students or someone that knows that wants to be in not so much the Needham band, but the Rhode Island Philharmonic.
Oh, the Youth Wind Ensemble. Sure, we have some auditions coming up in September, and it keeps growing. And it's a great group for students entering grades 7 through 12. Anybody in Rhode Island, nearby Massachusetts or Connecticut.
He does a terrific job conducting that. It's a great experience for the kids.
Yeah.
So for that in there.
Yeah.
If that's it, we can wrap it up.
Well, wait, maybe I'll run Dave. The last time I saw you was one at Ernie's jazz gatherings there in his basement.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That's where it was. And I was trying to think of, for crying out loud. That's what
it was. And we had a nice
guy. Yeah. So they were very interesting sessions, very
great
nice.
Group. Great group.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a different format. It's just a bunch of guys getting together in the basement.
Yeah.
Hopefully you'll come and sit in with us on Rob someday.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God,
anytime. Anytime you need a sax player, give me a call.
Then the advice to everyone that we give as we close out is
just keep on playing.